In a small town surrounded by high mountains and thick forests, there was a young man named Alex. He lived in a small wooden house that he had built himself. He worked as a carpenter, building houses and furniture for the people in the village. He was good at his work and had a reputation, but he was a quiet man who preferred to be alone. Alex was content with his peaceful, simple life. One day, as he sat in his workshop, looking at the wood he was about to carve, he heard a knock on the door. When he opened it, he saw an elderly woman standing outside. She looked kind and dressed simply, but there was a grace about her. "Hello, I'm Madame Rose," she said softly. "I would like you to build a small house for me." Alex looked at her for a moment before nodding. "Please, come in," he said, and opened the door for her. Madame Rose began explaining the house she wanted. Not too big, just enough for herself, as she wanted to escape the noise and chaos of the city she had lived in. They spoke for a while, and in the end, Alex agreed to take on the project. The following days were filled with work. Alex worked hard to build the small house for Madame Rose. Sometimes, she would visit to check on the progress. Though she didn't say much, she always smiled when she saw the work Alex had done. Alex felt something strange each time he saw her smile. It was as if she didn't just admire his work, but saw something in him that he hadn't noticed about himself. It made him feel happy, in a way he couldn't explain. One day, as Alex sat resting on a wooden bench under a tree behind his house, Madame Rose came and sat beside him. "Have you ever thought about why you do the work you do?" she asked quietly. Alex looked at her, then answered, "I do it so that others have good homes." Madame Rose smiled gently. "And what about you? Do you have a home that is good enough for you?" The question made Alex pause. He had never thought much about himself. He had always worked for others, but no one had ever asked him what he needed or wanted. "I've never thought about it," Alex said softly. Madame Rose smiled again and said, "Sometimes we forget that we also deserve happiness." Alex sat in silence, thinking about what she had said. He had been focused on making others happy for so long that he had never considered his own needs. The happiness he had once hoped for now felt like a distant dream, left forgotten in the corner of his heart. Time passed, and Madame Rose's house was finally completed. Everything was in place, and it looked beautiful. Alex felt proud of his work, but as the day came to hand over the house, he felt a strange sadness inside. Madame Rose smiled at him and thanked him sincerely. "Thank you so much. You've given this house real meaning." Alex looked at her and said softly, "I hope you find happiness in this house." Madame Rose nodded, then turned to leave. But before she walked away, she turned back and said, "Don't forget to take time for yourself." Her words made something stir in his heart. He realized that he had been neglecting his own needs for far too long. He didn't know exactly what he wanted yet, but he knew he had to find it. He looked at the small house he had built for Madame Rose and thought to himself that one day he would need to build a home for himself, not just for the sake of others, but so that he could also feel the happiness that he had given to so many others. Sometimes we need to build a home in our hearts too. Just like Alex needed to build a place where he could feel the happiness he had always given to others.